Hi.
Hello.
So how are we all doing, folks?
This is episode 2. How are we all doing, folks?
Absolutely. You never know, they might be able to respond, Phil.
We're not live. We're not live.
Well, we are, the recording isn't.
Yeah, I suppose so. Anyway, welcome to the Lost in His Own Museum podcast, episode 2, with Twig and Jim. I'm Twig.
And I'm Jim.
And this week we watched Batman Returns on... Well, I watched it on Blu-ray.
And I watched it on pukingly glorious 4K.
Pukingly glorious 4K.
It was absolutely phenomenal quality. To be fair though, mate, I've often said, and I'm sure anybody who's a connoisseur of Blu-rays will disagree with me, but I've always thought that Batman Returns on Blu-ray had some of the best sort of PQ for any HD transfer I'd seen, and quite often when I've sort of been selling people on the whole, you should get Blu-ray if you like your movies, I've stuck Batman Returns in. Yeah. Like my sister was one of them. She was like, should I get a Blu-ray player? And I was like, just put Batman Returns in. So I grabbed the DVD and the Blu-ray because of course I've got both.
And the 4K.
And the 4K. I got rid of my VHS a few years ago. I regret that. But anyway, I put the Blu-ray in and showed her that, and then put the DVD in, and she's like, wow, yeah, there's a real difference there.
Yeah.
And then the 4K only adds on to that again. Like, I texted you when I was watching it the other night, and I was like, I can make out the fibres on Christopher Walken's jacket.
Yeah, and the Blu-ray looks amazing as well. Like particularly the fight scene at the end. In the sort of big pool where the penguin's about to have his weird, surreal funeral. Like, why are the penguins living in, like... I love the movie. I'm not picking holes in it, but I am picking holes in it. Why are there penguins living in the sewers of Gotham City? Like...
Well, yeah, so that's a perfectly valid question. Do you know what's an even more valid question?
Yeah.
Why do the sewers connect to the aquarium at the zoo?
That's a good point. That's also a very good point. Well, no, okay, so I suppose because the ending of Batman Returns is in the aquarium of the zoo, and like that's how the penguins get into the sewer in the first place.
Yeah, but there's the whole tunnel, and the tunnel is the sewers.
Yeah.
Because he's riding the bat boat.
It just doesn't... Like, yeah, Gotham's got some serious city planning issues they need to sort out.
Either that or some serious animal welfare issues, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure that needs to go on a register somewhere, just make a note of that name.
It's such a good film though, isn't it?
It is amazing, yeah, it is really good.
You can tell Tim Burton with this one was allowed a lot more creative freedom.
Yeah.
And it's sort of... Where the first one was sort of like... You know, it sort of got it had modern of the time, 30 years ago now, but sort of it had vibes of the 80s and obviously the Prince soundtrack, and a lot of the technology they were using would have been the technology of that of the 80s, but then folk addressing like the 30s and 40s, and he was really evoking the whole comic book feel. Folk have got big trench coats on and hats and sort of almost like so got that
look here, see.
Got that whole sort of vibe going. But then in this one, it's like Burton's gone and gone, let's turn that up to 11.
Yeah, let's actually Tim Burton it. It's got all the hallmarks of like a really good Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a creepy, weird, surreal nightmare that plays like a kid's cartoon. You know what I mean? Plus, you got a score from Danny Elfman, which always helps when you're trying to create a weird, surreal nightmare that plays like a kid's cartoon.
Yeah.
Because it is a great score. It's a fantastic score. I love it.
I think Danny Elfman built on the score with this one. I think it flowed so much better, and the orchestration of the music, if that's the right word, it just all felt bigger and better, and just an improvement upon something that was already a brilliant piece of music and a brilliant suite of music. Yeah,
there's a lot of power in there. Like it's a really good strong score. And with a really good strong motif as well. It's a very like, sorry, we're talking sharp music again. There's a sort of John Williams kind of feel to it. Like, it's a really distinctive bit of music, and it's like it's got that same type of orchestration in like the big parts, but like in the sort of smaller bit part music.
Yeah,
is more typical Danny Elfman. really jumpy and weird and like. Lots of like staccato instruments, stuff like glockenspiels and stuff in there, and
Yeah, no, it really is
things that you hit while your eyes are darting around.
just like some of the music that he gives the penguin and the opening sequence. Obviously, the opening of the film is the penguin being born. And for anybody who's eagle-eyed and noticed it, it's Pee Wee Herman playing the penguin's dad.
Yes, yeah, I did notice that. I was thinking that's the waiter from the Blues Brothers. But yeah,
it's great, and obviously penguin's born, and then they don't want the deformed child, so instead of putting him up for adoption, which if you really don't want your kid is the decent thing to do, I suppose. They dump him in the river.
Yeah, and, well, I suppose it's probably like orphanages in Gotham City. And but then you have this whole thing with a baby raised by penguins in the sewers, which for some reason connect to the zoo. It's just
Well, I tell you what always amused me as well, more so last night than ever, is it flashes up Gotham 33 years later. Now I don't know whether it's because we're in our late 20s approaching 30.
Yeah.
But bloody hell, if what's he called? Danny DeVito's supposed to be 33 in that film. That's a tough paper round. Even for living in the sewer, that's a tough paper round.
He's been living in a sewer raised by penguins and was relatively deformed to begin with. But there's the penguin Danny DeVito played it's just aesthetically horrifying. There's the whole thing where he comes down the spiral staircase with Christopher Walken in his pajamas, if you can call it that.
Yeah, like his long johns, really.
His big underwear, eating a raw fish with and then you've got the green stuff
the
emerging from his mouth,
and
then he bites the guy's nose off.
I love the rapport the guy tries to have with him. There's not a lot of reflective surfaces down there in the sewer, huh?
Yeah, as if he's going to do anything else except annoy him.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be worse.
My nose could be gushing blood.
My nose could be gushing.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, it is horrifying. But as I say, it plays like a kid's cartoon.
It really does, doesn't it?
Which is so Tim Burton. This movie is not for children, by the way. It looks like it is, but it is not.
Well, the first one obviously received a 15 rating over here in the UK, and I'm not sure does that equate to R in America or NC-17 or whatever. But either way, not made for young kids.
Yeah.
McDonald's latched on to this one, didn't they? And I think it's in part sort of influenced the creation of the Happy Meal. Did Batman Returns?
Yeah.
And they made all the toys, and I think you could get collectible cups to have your McDonald's drink out of. And
it's basically you'll know about all this stuff when you turn 18.
Yeah, but it's then you say when you watch the film,
Yeah.
It's not a kid's film, is it?
Oh God, no.
But I don't know whether that's just because attitudes have evolved and changed. Because like we said, I think we touched on it last week about watching films that were age inappropriate.
Yeah.
I was about 5 when I first saw this film, which had probably only been, I don't know. Well, actually, no, I was born the same year the film came out, so it had been 5 years since it came out.
Yeah.
And Dad taped it off when it premiered on terrestrial TV for those who were born in the 1800s, like us. And
from a VCR.
But Dad taped it off of TV, and I grew up with the animated series, which is heavily influenced by these Burton films. And I was like, oh, Dad, please. And Mum and Soph had gone out somewhere, and he's like, go on then. He put it on. But because it was Batman, I was completely desensitised to all the horror. But actually, when you think about it, it is a grotesque movie, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, because the thing I like about Batman movies is that they tend to be very villain-centric. You know, since... particularly with the Dark Knight trilogy and you know, since the Burton Schumacher era, I like that the villain-centric thing where it's more centred on the story of the villain, and it does get to the point sometimes where Batman's just a pain. You know what I mean? Just the character of Batman himself is just a hindrance. Like particularly in the Dark Knight, I found.
Yeah,
Dark Knight.
I mean, with this story with Batman Returns, he's very much a secondary character in his own story, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of mostly about the evolution of Catwoman and the rapport between Christopher Walken's character, and the Penguin. Really,
do you know one thing I didn't realise is that, and this isn't until last night's viewing, But obviously, you know, because we're doing this, I've sort of paid a lot closer attention to it than perhaps I have done before, because I wanted to sort of think about points to, you know, to discuss. The whole film takes place over about 5 days.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make any sense that, like, picking it apart again out. We're one of my favourite films and we're picking it apart.
Yeah, that's
I'll apologise to you, Mike, if you're listening to this, mate. You said do it proud. I hope we are.
Yeah.
But no, like, you know, reports of Catwoman in the newspapers and stuff like that, and her being this sort of big, sort of, they make a point of her being a, you know, a real sort of character in the folklore of Gotham, if you like. And it's actually, she's been around for 2 or 3 days, and a handful of people will have seen her. It's not like she's this prolific cat burglar sort of thing yet. You know, she's just a very mentally ill young lady that's decided to...
That's been attacked by cats after a near-death experience. And
do you know how they got all the cats to do that?
Yeah, I did wonder. Yeah,
they covered her in tuna brine. I'm not joking.
That's what. Of course,
she must have absolutely hummed after that.
Oh, that is commitment, though. That is true commitment.
With the suit as well. I read this the other day. They had to, for some scenes, like where the suit's meant to be intact and, you know, she's fighting fit with it, she had to be vacuum sealed into it.
Yeah.
And they did it so tight one time that she passed out.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But you see it gets looser and looser in the film as she damages it more.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I love the scene when she smashes her house up. I think it must have been. It must have been so fun to get that as a direction, you know, just to say, like, right, so you're gonna come home after a tough day at work and having a near-death experience. You're gonna have a full-blown nervous breakdown and destroy your house.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't even think it's a near nervous breakdown. It is a nervous breakdown, isn't it?
It is an actual nervous breakdown. Well, it's more like, it's not a near-death experience. Like, really, she died and was revived by cats, I think, is the thing.
Yeah.
Because then there's the whole 9 Lives thing later on as well.
Yeah, there is. And I do like that, sort of like they tease there's a supernatural element there.
Yeah.
But actually, it doesn't need to be explored any more than just being alluded to. And it's quite nice.
Yeah, and that's kind of a... I think that's something that Tim Burton sort of shines with a bit as well. It's like that idea of the supernatural, but like it might just be her imagining it. Like she might have just had like a near death experience and a nervous breakdown, you know. And it might just be that, and the 9 Lives thing is all in her head.
She plays really well off Michael Keaton, though, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, brilliant.
And they really do bring the whole Batman, Catwoman sort of, you know, will they, won't they, love dynamic to life, sort of like they're enemies, but they're not. And I think it's really, really great what they have to do. It feels possibly a little rushed given how, you know, the period of time that the film takes place over.
Yeah.
But they, with what they've got to work with, boy hell do they absolutely knock it out of the park.
Is it a Christmas movie?
I would say no.
Right.
My logic for this is the same for why Die Hard is. So I would say it's not a Christmas movie because if you take Christmas out of the equation, everything can still happen as normal.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
If it was set in the middle of summer or early January or whatever, the Christmas theme has no bearing on the plot whatsoever.
Whereas with Die Hard, the reason why the terrorists
empty and
the reason why the terrorists attacked that night is because there's a Christmas party going on.
Absolutely, they know there's going to be hostages. They know that it's going to be limited capacity. Exactly, yeah. And then obviously McClane's coming home to reconnect with his family because it's Christmas and he wants to make a last go of it, sort of thing. Yeah. So I've always said that it's not a Christmas movie.
Okay.
For the same logic, I would say.
You say Die Hard is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Same with On Her Majesty's Secret Service as well. I watched that not so long since for my debriefing 007 series that I've been doing, and primarily set at Christmas.
Yeah.
But you could just as easily set it in March.
I think with the thing with Batman Returns though is it sort of has to be in the winter. I think because it just makes it weirder. You know, it just makes it creepier.
It has to be aesthetic, doesn't it?
Yeah, because there's steam everywhere and it's snowing and
snow, and the
steam coming from the gutters, and you know.
Well, not only that, but obviously the set, they didn't reuse the sets from the first one. Warner Brothers kept them on hand because they wanted the continuity there. but obviously Tim Burton, been allowed full creative control on it,
Yeah.
went completely back to basics and redesigned Gotham. Now, I actually think Gotham in this one is better than the Gotham in the last one.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it really just evokes the comics, and I don't think we've had an on-screen Gotham as good as Batman Returns as Gotham since.
Yeah, not in terms of like the sort of accuracy to the sort of aesthetic of the comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because I do like what they did with Gotham in the Dark Knight trilogy. You know, because it's
just Chicago.
It's Chicago, isn't it? But it's like, rather than, because it matched the aesthetic of those films, because it wasn't the creepy, exaggerated, sort of like almost Dr. Seuss-esque world of DC, you know.
But I mean, a lot of the comics took inspiration from the early sort of German expressionism films that influenced a lot of film noir of the 30s and 40s. But you know, you've got those sort of films and that genre, that medium of art, if you like, and it very much influences. I mean, I know it's been said in other things as well, but obviously the secondary villain is Christopher Walken's Max Schreck.
Yeah.
Max Schreck is obviously a very famous German expressionist actor that appeared in a lot of those sort of films.
Yeah.
They're not even being subtle about where they're taking their inspirations from.
Yeah, it's definitely like a bull in a china shop sort of.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sort of reference, yeah.
Well, you can tell that the name was last minute as well, because with the character of Max Schreck, it was originally written to be Harvey Dent.
Right.
And it wasn't going to be this whole sort of like power plant business mogul angle. It was going to be a political battle between Harvey Dent, played by Billy D. Williams, as the district attorney that's established in the first film. And then in this one, it was going to be that him and the mayor that we see in the film have different ideals on a political subject, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that we slowly start to see Billy D's descent into sort of not being a very nice guy, and that sort of, and you can tell that it's still there because there's all the themes of duality in the film.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Catwoman and Batman are talking about their dual lives, and it was going to sort of complete this triangle of people that aren't really who they seem, and then in the middle's the Penguin, who is entirely what he seems.
Yeah.
But then they sort of borrowed the bits for that and then put stuff back onto the Penguin, and obviously he's going for this whole I'm Oswald Cobblepot. He already knows who he is, but he's playing up to the public. But anyway, yeah, if it had been Billy D. Williams, the bit at the end is Selena Kyle would have been his assistant, and obviously much of the film would have transpired the same way.
Uh-huh.
And then when she shocks him at the end while she's giving him the kiss, instead of blowing him to smithereens, would have scarred half his face.
And done the Two-Face job,
Yeah, and then set up Two-Face for Batman Forever.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, I don't know whether it was scheduling conflicts or what the reason was, but they decided at the 11th hour that they didn't want to do the Two-Face thing. Brought Walken in and sort of copied and pasted the character over, and then sort of fabricated a slightly different backstory in Max Schreck. Which I suppose, hindsight being foresight and all that sort of good stuff, Walken is one of the strongest parts of an already brilliant film.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think his sort of almost straight villain versus the wacky villain in DeVito's Penguin.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting Danny DeVito's name. Why do I keep forgetting Danny DeVito's name? But yeah,
Just think the dad from Matilda.
Anyway, the dad from Matilda. But you know, the sort of the complete out there and craziness of DeVito's performance versus him playing essentially just a business mogul.
Yeah.
I think they work really quite well together, and obviously Catwoman's in the middle of all that, and you're not really sure. It's brilliant, and then obviously Keaton just brings it home again as Batman and Bruce Wayne.
I do like Keaton as Batman. I much prefer him to, as much as I love Batman Forever. Because Batman Forever is one of those films you can acknowledge is really bad, but still really enjoy it. Mostly because I love the way that Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones bounce off each other.
Even though they
hated each other on set, yeah, but definitely prefer
I cannot sanction that buffoonery, young man.
So no one ever told you have a serious impulse control problem.
Thank you, dear boy.
More on that next week. I've totally lost my train of thought. As much as I love Batman Forever, I do prefer Keaton to Val Kilmer, especially to George Clooney. As much as I think George Clooney's brilliant.
Not as Batman.
Not as Batman, no. And there is the story about him going around cinemas and giving people their money back after Batman and Robin. I mean, it was just awful. Like, that one's definitely one we hope gets lost to history.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And on that note, is Batman Returns, does it belong in the museum, or is that getting lost to history?
I would say 100%, without any shadow of a doubt, that Batman Returns belongs in the museum.
I think it belongs in the museum.
It's a brilliant Batman adventure. Tim Burton's style, both as in his directing and his artistic sort of influence on the film, lends itself perfectly to the character. I think in terms of the likes of Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer is the quintessential performance of it. I think Danny DeVito's Penguin is something that won't easily be rivalled. I'm interested to see what Colin Farrell does with it in The Batman.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
2022 when that comes out. And again, Keaton is so timeless as Batman that they're even bringing him back as the replacement Batman for the DC Extended Universe in Flashpoint that comes out next Christmas. He's coming back as Batman.
I'm still not quite sure how that's going to go down. But
I think it's going to work. And the reason I think it's going to work is because they've said that they're bringing him in a Nick Fury type capacity.
Okay.
So whilst he will be Batman and whilst he'll show up, he's essentially going to be this sort of like mentor figure that's going to show up when needed.
Yeah.
And I just
think
that's
give everybody loads of really sound advice about fighting people and then disappearing.
Well, yeah, I always liked the Batman Beyond show that came out in the early 2000s. In fact, that is my favourite version of any Batman.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but the old aging hero sort of training a new unlikely hero up sort of thing. That story just resonates with me. I love Mask of Zorro for the same reason. It's kind of copied the same sort of plot. Yeah. But I think Keaton will do good at it. I think he's a brilliant Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I just rate it, and I can't wait to see what they do. I'm over the moon that he's coming back.
That's something about Keaton. He was a brilliant Bruce Wayne as well as a brilliant Batman, and there is a resounding difference. Like it's because Val Kilmer, for example, was a brilliant Bruce Wayne, terrible Batman.
I would say mediocre Batman, but I agree, brilliant Bruce Wayne.
Christian Bale, I thought, was
a great Bruce Wayne,
and not a brilliant Batman. Whereas George Clooney, arguably a very good Batman, but an awful Bruce Wayne.
I would disagree. I thought he was dire as Batman.
Yeah.
I thought possibly he was passable in some of the public scenes as Bruce Wayne. You know the bit where Poison Ivy's turning up and she's going on about Heinz Primordial Soup and carrying on about, your South American labs are causing this bother and that bother, and sort of Bruce Wayne challenges her and he's got Elle Macpherson on his arm and all. I think when he's playing up to the playboy bit, because I think that's the sort of character that George Clooney of that era could do well.
Oh yeah, I suppose so.
George Clooney is a talented actor and producer and director, and
it's been quite a long time since I've seen that movie.
I watched it earlier in the year when I bought them all on 4K. I did them a night a week sort of thing just to see what they look like. Fantastic. Picture quality, just shame about everything else. But
it's a terrible movie.
But yeah, I don't really rate the performance on the whole at all. The Batman performance is like a poor imitation of what Adam West did.
Yeah, that was sort of what I meant though. Because I quite like that. But
the thing is, Adam West and co meant to go in making a campy, silly Batman movie. And then Warner Brothers, when they did this one, everybody, apart from Joel Schumacher, may he rest in peace, went in wanting to make a serious movie.
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher went in wanting to make a cartoon.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And so it's sort of like you've got everybody trying their best, but you can't polish a turd. You just put glitter and rubber nipples on it.
Okay, so this week's podcast is called Glitter and Rubber Nipples. I think that's definitely what we're calling it. So yeah, that one's definitely definitely going in the museum, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So we asked to sort of segue onto another segment. We asked the internet this week about actors that we think are sort of actors of our sort of generation and the generation behind us, like Generation X and millennials, who will eventually end up becoming sort of the next generation of like big sort of really talented household names. People like, you're talking Michael Caine, Robert De Niro, Judi Dench, actors like that are
the guys that have stood the test of time, that can lend themselves to any genre.
Yeah.
And
the ones that are still in films now.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they're,
in their advancing years, sort of thing, there's still a demand for them to be there.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult question, isn't it?
Yeah, there are some obvious ones. There's some really obvious ones that jump out. For example, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch is definitely a great shout.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy obviously starting in TV and doing sort of like telefilms, and Sherlock was his breakthrough, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he does sort of turn everything he touches into gold.
Yeah.
And he's managed to save some quite mediocre productions, to be fair, hasn't he? I mean,
yeah.
He is the best thing about Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that, to be fair, in my opinion, was a really weak movie. But then things like Imitation Game, he absolutely knocks it out of the park, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's done some really good stuff, some like really good biopic stuff. He plays real characters really well. I don't know what it is. I think he's just got a talent for being able to sort of for being able to really sink his teeth into like the history of a character and to like emulate their personality, and
he's a bit of a chameleon in that sense, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really enjoyed him in the Imitation Game. Brexit, the Uncivil War, as Dominic Cummings.
Plays Dominic Cummings. Yeah.
That was incredible. It's weird seeing him with a Geordie accent, but
I've not watched it yet.
It is good. It's terrifying, but it's good. But staying away from politics.
There's going to be a screening of it at Barnard Castle, isn't
there? Yeah. Don't ever come back, Cummings.
But
try and make him sound like a Batman villain. And he played Julian Assange.
He did. I loved that film.
That was a really good film.
It got slated.
Yeah, I know.
I went to the cinema to see that because I found the whole story, the whole WikiLeaks thing. Regardless of what they were leaking, I just found the whole thing quite interesting.
Yeah.
And then I realised they were making this film, and obviously Benedict Cumberbatch is in it playing Assange, and then Daniel Bruhl's in it. Yeah. And I can't remember the name of the chap, but he's somebody else heavily involved in it. And because it's the story of those two guys meeting, sort of you follow it through Daniel Bruhl's character's sort of eyes, as it were.
Yeah.
And he's up to a major press release, isn't it, that they were involved in. And I found it really good, The Fifth Estate. I watched it a couple of times since and enjoy it as a bit of a, would you call it a political thriller?
I mean, I suppose it is. I mean, it's kind of it's not really a biopic. It's like a it plays a bit like a sort of 24 type thing, like
it's got a lot of everything in it. It is kind of a biopic of a certain section of a couple of blokes' lives, but then it's got the thriller aspect and the drama aspect and conspiracy sort of thing to it as well.
Time clock and stuff. And,
I think we definitely agree then that Benedict Cumberbatch will still be here in 20, 30, 40 years' time.
I would absolutely think so. I did ask the internet, and we have, again, Nintendo's getting fired for this. I think that's going to become a little catchphrase, isn't it? I did ask the internet, and we got a few interesting answers. Colin Klein on Twitter says Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I would say so.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened to my voice there.
It's all right. But Leo DiCaprio is definitely. I mean, the guy. He just evolved with the times, hasn't he? So he sort of did in the 90s. He did the teen heartthrob thing with Romeo and Juliet and Titanic and the sort of the likes of, and then even before that, child actor. What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and he'd done other things as well. And he's just evolved in the early 2000s. He sort of still did the heartthrob thing, but then took on some more drama, sort of like thrillery roles, like with The Beach and the Departed. Working with Scorsese, he did Catch Me If You Can with Spielberg. Again, another a bit of a chameleon. But then you get to like the 2010s, and he's Calvin Candy in Django Unchained.
Yeah, that was a terrifying character.
So good though, wasn't he? So good.
And then finally got an Oscar for The Revenant, which was.
I mean, the Revenant was okay.
Yeah, I'm still not
I think they gave it to him as a consolation because they didn't give him it the year before for Wolf of Wall Street. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
which I think is his standout performance of the last 10 years at least. Anyway, and then he's done. He did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well, where he played Rick Dalton. I was going to say Cliff Booth, then that's the other guy.
That's Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah, and I really liked that film. I know it got some middling reviews, but I thought he was great in it.
I couldn't get on with it, but I have only seen it the once. I'm a huge Tarantino fan in general, and I think I'd just been really excited about it. And I went to the cinema, and it was just underwhelming. But yeah, I think I maybe just got I overhyped it in my head.
See, I missed it in the cinemas. I just couldn't find the time to get there. And so it came out on DVD. I picked the DVD up a few weeks after it had been out, and I think it was in like an HMV sale or whatever. Where they drop down to like they're not a tenner anymore, and they're like $6.99 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I picked it up and watched it then, and just watched it one rainy Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. And possibly because I went in with little to no expectation because the hype had passed me by.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. I've watched it just the once since, but again enjoyed it just as much a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think Leo DiCaprio's got a lot of potential as a.
Yeah, he's sort of getting to that point now where, because he's in his mid-40s now.
Yes, I would say early 50s. I think.
Possibly yes. He's gonna be that sort of ballpark. So he's sort of getting to the. He's not an elder statesman, as it were, yet, but he's sort of getting to that point where he's definitely cemented his legacy.
Yeah.
And do you know? I think as well that Emma Stone is going to be somebody like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think she's done a range of things. She started out in teen comedies, Superbad and Easy A. Uh-huh. She's gone on and done the superhero thing, but then she's gone and done things like La La Land as well.
Yeah,
and
these are like Oscar winning,
absolutely critically acclaimed films, and she lends herself to some really, really great projects. And again, he's a really adaptable young lady, and I think he's somebody that will be around. I think me
and my girlfriend the other day were just talking about Zac Efron, and although unpopular opinion in this might be, he's one of those actors that I think it's going to be interesting. Like after seeing the Ted Bundy biopic, it's going to be interesting seeing what he makes of his career now. Because obviously, started out as a child actor and stuff this is like a teenage actor. He did all the acronym shows, CSI, NCIS. He was in ER, I think, as well. First appeared in Firefly.
I was going to say his breakthrough really was the High School Musical stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, which I think gave him a stigma that he's going to struggle to get out of.
I think he's done his absolute damnedest to get away from it though. I mean, after that he did some teen comedies like 17 again, which admittedly is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. I saw one of our sort of favourite films, and so we're always on sort of growing up. I think we went to the cinema to see it if I remember rightly, but it's a whole other aside. Don't judge me for it, internet. But he's done like Charlie St. Cloud, and there's a few other odds and ends and stuff like that. I think he might have even played, linking back to last week's episode, he might have played Orson Welles in a film.
Yeah, possibly,
I'm sure there's a film where he plays Orson Welles or something to do with Orson Welles, any road. But yeah, he has sort of left that behind, hasn't he? And I think there's a film, I can't remember what the film's called, but there's a film where he plays like a Marine coming back from a tour, and it's a bit of a romantic drama. I'm sure of it, but again, the guy has got acting chops, and like I said, the Ted Bundy film.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary piece of acting.
It's out of left field, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was in a JFK film as well called Parkland.
Yeah.
He played a doctor in that, and he was quite good in that from memory.
Yeah.
I think, like you say, it's going to ride on his next few career moves.
Yeah, I think, I'd like to see him do well, because he's got some serious acting ability. A lot of untapped potential in there, I think, and I think he has the potential to be like, when we're talking about the you Michael Caine's and stuff and that sort of stuff. I think he has the potential to be like what Leo DiCaprio is now. Like later on, like Zac Efron has that potential later on in his career
to go down that sort
of road. Yeah,
possibly so. Yeah. I think Emily Blunt's another.
Emily Blunt's a good one. Yeah.
Because she's obviously done loads of stuff, hasn't she?
Yeah.
And she just seems to be coming up more and more and more and more. And obviously, she's done Quiet Place with her husband. Is it John Krasinski? Is he called Krasinski? Apologies, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, but I know he's the chap that started in The Office.
Yeah.
And he's obviously a really talented actor and director. And they wrote The Quiet Place, and she's in that, and she's in Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Opposite Tom Cruise, and she plays an absolute badass in that. Yeah. And I reckon she's somebody that could be around for years. She's done Mary Poppins recently, and whilst I haven't seen Mary Poppins 2, I've heard good things about it.
I've heard good things about it. Yeah, I've heard it's quite good
as well.
We've got some interesting suggestions on this one.
Go on, then. Let's see what the internet has to say.
Nick Tara on Twitter says Jonah Hill.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, as a comedy actor, definitely.
But I mean, he can do serious as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the stigma is too much now. After being the funny guy, and you sort of.
But I mean, have you? So he's got that sort of quirky, sort of almost comedic vibe to him, definitely, and obviously starting in, like Knocked Up, Superbad, and a lot of the Judd Apatow sort of, Seth, or what's he called, Seth Rogen stuff.
Yeah.
I suppose you do get a bit of a label for working on that sort of stuff. But then, like Moneyball, he's great in that.
Oh, yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, he's fantastic in. There's one that he does opposite James Franco, which I've not seen, where he plays a killer in prison.
Okay.
And I haven't seen it yet, but it's a couple of years old. It got glowing reviews. Yeah. But then there's War Dogs as well that he did with Miles Teller a few years ago.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
What's that TV series that he does with Emma Stone?
I'm not too sure.
Oh, I think it's a TV show. Yeah, we're doing a movie podcast, and Phil.
It's TV. It's a different
claims to be like a bit of a film buff. Doesn't know whether it's a film or a TV show. I can't remember. We'll talk about it another time.
I do think he has got some surprises up his sleeve.
Yeah.
And I think he could be one that as he gets older, and I'm sure he's probably only a couple of years older than us. He's going to be early 30s, isn't he, at this point?
Yeah, I would think so.
35 at tops.
Yeah.
So I think as he gets older and into his 40s and his 50s, I think he'll mature into some more sorts. I don't think he's ever going to be the sort of bloke that's going to play like, political leaders or, really, really serious characters.
Yeah.
But, think about the sort of stuff that you see, like Dennis Quaid doing, for argument's sake.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
Sort of like your average American Joe playing the dad in some great films. I think Jonah Hill could do that, and I'm not trying to sell him short by saying that. I think there's, but then again, like I say, the guy's got untapped potential and is a real talent. I've not seen much of him other than Interstellar and what I've seen of the new Dune, but I think that Timothée Chalamet is probably somebody who's really current now.
Yeah.
That could potentially blow up.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those. I think Donald Gleeson as well is one of them. With like, because he's had some fairly high profile roles, but not. He's the sort of actor where you don't realise that it's the same guy film for film. Like if you're not one of the people like we are who like who's obsessed with like knowing who actors are and it's that guy from that thing.
Yeah.
Donald Gleeson started his career off as a sort of that guy, but with doing more and more sort of high profile stuff like The Revenant, and obviously being in Star Wars now as well.
Harry Potter, wasn't he?
And Harry Potter.
He's got his face out there, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's one of these people that's got his foot in the door in some major franchises and some, but the right ones, like the good ones, not like he's
not
making
like some of these that are maybe like flash in the pan sort of.
Yeah, like Donald Gleeson's consistently making good career decisions, and I think like because that's how Benedict Cumberbatch got to where he is. Is by just consistently making good decisions with a career and making sure he takes projects that he knows are gonna work for him. And I think Donald Gleeson's about 5 years behind Benedict Cumberbatch on the same line.
It's going to be certainly interesting to watch these people's careers unfold.
Yeah.
And see sort of where we're going. I suppose they've sort of cemented it now. The folks from the 90s and the early 2000s, I think the ones that are going to stick around. It's your Gyllenhaals and your Hugh Jackman and I'm trying to think of
Matthew
other people.
McConaughey,
Ben
Christian
Affleck,
Bale, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. That guy, I thought, and I know it all turned out to be a stunt for, is it the movie I'm Still Here?
Yeah.
Where he sort of went off the rails a bit. And I don't know whether he did actually in real life or whether it was just, but he was doing all the weird interviews and things like that. I thought, oh, bless him, he's past his best.
Yeah.
But then obviously he's come back, he's knocked it out of the park with,
Joker
and Her was brilliant as well. I think he's gonna go on to do. I think he could be this generation's like Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We've also heard Christian Bale's been suggested. Matthew McConaughey, who I think Matthew McConaughey is brilliant.
He's fantastic. He doesn't really change. You see him in something and he's just all right. He's Matthew McConaughey, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's in the similar sort of sense to what Michael Caine is.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when you book Matthew McConaughey for a gig, it's because you want Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's like when you book Michael Caine or Morgan Freeman or even probably Bobby De Niro to an extent now. Maybe not so much back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, but definitely.
But now
when you want talking gangster, really, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of tough grandpa sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's got that sort of quality where he's got what he does.
Yeah.
And what he does is really good.
Yeah.
And so you book that, and then you write your character around that, almost a bit like Jim Carrey. I suppose. Same with Matthew McConaughey. You take something like True Detective, and he was completely out of character sort of for that. I suppose is it Mud that he does where he's the prisoner escaped. He's not really. So I suppose what I'm saying is, on the whole, you book these people for the persona that they bring, but they're actually really good outside of that, and they can do these really surprising things as well. Is it Dallas Buyers that McConaughey's in?
Yes, Dallas Buyers Club is brilliant.
Yeah,
and again, actually, I think we might see, if we're lucky enough, we might see Jared Leto walking that same sort of line. He's a very diverse actor.
Well, I was just going to say, he's not somebody I've ever really warmed to. Because he obviously does the 30 Seconds to Mars thing. I don't know much about him, whether he was a musician first or an actor first. But I remember seeing him in Urban Legend, which was a film in the wake of Scream coming out, and he plays one of the young lads in the group of friends. They all slowly get picked off. It's that sort of film, isn't it? And then I remember seeing him as sort of like the he's the frenemy, if you like, the sort of the antagonist, at least in the main character's mind in American Psycho.
Yeah.
And he's not really given much to do with that film, to be fair. It's a great film, but he's just a pretentious snob in it for a few scenes, gets his head chopped off, and then sort of thing. But I've not seen enough of him to really give a fair opinion, other than to say what I've seen so far hasn't enticed me to go looking for more.
Yeah, and I think you'll change your mind about that when you see Dallas Buyers. He did win an Oscar for that, I think. He was spectacular. I've never seen anything like it. I think Jared Leto's made a couple of bad career choices. Because this is what it's all going to come down to, isn't it? Really, his career choices among actors. I mean, you've got obvious ones like James McAvoy. I think is one that'll get that sort of status.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because again, apart from the fact that he's an incredible actor, good career choices. He's been in some really good movies. He's played some great characters. He's got his foot in the door of a really good franchise in X-Men alongside Michael Fassbender, who I think is another one.
Well, I think the thing is, he's known. Well, I'd say he's known when to step away, but it comes down to your opinion on those films. Really, I'd have stepped away after Days of Future's Past. But
even though the films are getting declining in quality, though, he's still really good.
Oh yeah, he's really good. Yeah, but he's done that.
He's the saving grace of the bad ones, really.
Well, yeah, I suppose, and it's the same with Split as well. I know that Split caused some controversy because obviously he's playing a character with mental illness, and it's a sensitive subject, and I completely understand that. But what he did in that film, to me, was brilliant.
He's acting in it.
He's a guy with 23 different identities, and in the film we get to meet, 6 or 7 of them.
So he's not just playing a character; he's playing several distinct characters they are the same person, but not, you know, like...
They're physically the same person, they embody the same body, but mentally completely different.
So he's switching his entire persona, his entire character momentarily from one to the next.
Yeah, there's a scene in Split where he's playing, forgive me, I forget the character's name, but he's playing a character that's sort of got obsessive compulsive traits and really likes things to be clean and neat and tidy. And then there's another character that's almost probably the second most prominent identity that he plays, which is meant to be a sort of middle-aged to older lady called Patricia.
Yeah. And
his face changes and it just sort of completely just sort of... I'm waving my hand across my face to signal a change, and this is...
It's a podcast.
Hans, baby, this isn't television. Put the gun away. But, you know...
it's almost like his muscle structure changes.
Yeah, and he in his face, in his eyes, in his mouth, and just, and it's not like suddenly like him going into a big cheesy grin or something really blatantly obvious. It's
shut up, blatantly obvious. I'm bad.
I didn't do that intentionally, but there you go. But it's so subtle, but you see it and you know, and then it's sort of like you know, and it's hello dear, I'm Patricia, and you know the other character's gone, and like I say, sign of a really
in the
great
same shot, man. That's the thing. It's in the same shot. It's switching from one to the other. Yeah. Straight off the bat. I mean, that like, you know, all controversy aside, you've got to be so talented to pull that off.
Absolutely. They think the guy is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that are coming sort of into prominence now in films and starting to sort of leave the sort of films of their late teens and their early 20s behind and maybe make some more sort of substantial, you know, choices to do some more films of substance.
I can see Adam Driver getting there.
Adam Driver is a brilliant shout. Anna Kendrick, I think,
has got some serious potential.
Yeah, she's really good. Did you see Simple Favour?
I haven't seen that yet, no.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And as well, I mean, we're not talking directors now, but it sort of shows you just what Paul Feig can do as well, because again, he's sort of known for his sort of comedies and his sort of like rom-com sort of chick flick-esque, and I think he did the very, very controversial remake of Ghostbusters as well. So you know that the guy divides opinions.
Yeah, Ghostbusters would have been really good if it wasn't so bad. It's one of those. It's one of those films where, to me, like.
Sure, for me, it was a real shame because I know that the original plot for Ghostbusters 3 was the original Ghostbusters dying at the beginning, and then their daughters, because they've all grown up and had daughters, taking over the role and sort of wanting to avenge their late fathers, and then sort of it about them becoming the next generation, and I just didn't care for the humour. Yeah, I mean, I was game for a Ghostbusters sequel, and then when I saw it, I'm like, oh no, it just didn't tick the box for me, and it's a shame because got some absolutely fantastic leading ladies in that film that really could have brought it home.
I think it was a poor decision on Chris Hemsworth's part as well. That was a bad career choice. I like Hemsworth. I know you're not a big fan, but
I'm indifferent, to be fair. He's a good Thor, but I haven't seen anything outside of that where I've gone, this guy's going to be exceptional.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Rush, but I'm a bit of a Formula One nut. And I mean Rush with him and Daniel Bruhl playing off each other, and then you've got a few other really good actors in there as well. And directed by Ron Howard. I mean, you just can't go wrong. I'm trying to think of names, more names of people that were in that movie. But I did really enjoy Rush. I thought Chris Hemsworth's performance in that was really good.
It is a good film, to be fair. Actually, I will say that. I'm just having a look now because we did put out on the internet, probably just to park that topic there, because I think it's one that we could discuss forever and a day.
Yes.
And I think
we should do it with directors as well at some point.
I think so, but I think, we'll see how this podcast goes, and if we're hopefully still doing it in a year's time, it might be a nice question to revisit and see, who do we think's still on that sort of track.
There are a couple of obvious ones. There's Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp, who I think are both.
But they're both getting towards, I mean, Helena Bonham Carter's going to be, 50 now?
Yeah.
Johnny Depp must be pushing 60.
Yeah, I would think so.
So I would say that they've already well and truly cemented their legacies.
Yeah. Particularly
Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah, obviously, you know, I don't think we should really get into the whole Johnny Depp thing at the moment because I think him and Amber Heard are in some hot water.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough ride, but
I don't really want to make this podcast about that.
Same.
So
let's park that.
Absolutely, let's park that. So.
Should we do some questions?
I think we should. I'm gonna shoot the first one.
Okay.
Because it links back into our topic of film this week, which was Batman Returns. Michael Woods, a good friend of mine and Phil's, writes to us, and he writes. But he says his all-time favourite film is Batman Returns, and do it proud. The question is, of all the actors, who do you think has portrayed the best Batman and Bruce Wayne, and why?
Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. So I wanted to answer this by who's been the best Batman, who's been the best Bruce, and who's done the best combined job.
Okay.
I figure that's the fairest way to answer that question.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
I think. Okay. I think Christian Bale played the best Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
I would be inclined to say, but you know what? I think it's pretty obvious with the Batman. I think Michael Keaton played Batman best. The thing I liked about Christian Bale, and I will say, I think Christian Bale's probably the best combined as well. Because although not the best Batman, Christian Bale sort of shrunk down the duality of Batman versus Bruce Wayne. Like it's not the big jump from one character to the other like it is with Val Kilmer and with Michael Keaton and particularly with George Clooney. It's not like it's not a big personality change between Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's kind of because Bruce Christian Bale's Batman isn't like the big eccentric Batman character, not the sort of big colourful turns up on the scene with his arms on his sides and you know,
evening, Commissioner.
It's more like his Batman sort of seems like he doesn't really want to be noticed like that. Like he wants to sneak through the night and scare the shit out of people in a more subtle sort of way, rather. And it doesn't need that big personality jump because I don't feel like Christian Bale's Batman really has a personality at all. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just that for me is why I don't rate Bale's Batman. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think in the Dark Knight trilogy, that's what Batman needs to be.
I
it's just a weapon, really. You know, rather than, like
I think Bale got it best in Begins.
Yeah.
And I think, Alfred sort of coaxing him as, well, what does somebody in my position do? I don't know, date movie stars and, terrible Michael Caine there. But, I'm not playing Polo Alfred.
Not a lot of people know that. My name is Michael Caine, and I am a nosy neighbour. A nosy neighbour, mind!
But yeah, and then he's like, Bruce Wayne is the whole, I'm buying this hotel, and changing some rules about the pool area. He's like, and he does that whole eccentric bit, and then he does the speech at the end, with the "you're all a lousy bunch of freeloaders, get out of my." I liked that.
Yeah,
but I thought that they didn't keep up to that. Yeah,
I think that kind of speaks to like the evolution of the character a bit, I think, because obviously, by the time it gets to the Dark Knight and particularly Rises, a lot has happened.
Yeah, I suppose he's lost Rachel, he's lost the hope and the will, and
I think it's a lot harder for him to be that sort of character as Bruce Wayne.
I don't get me wrong, I love those films. I watch them once a year. I think Nolan, can practically do no wrong. So it's not on this. I think my favourite Bruce Wayne, and I don't know if you want to put some booze in after I say this, is Ben Affleck. Okay.
I forgot all about him. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I forgot all about him.
And I'm talking the extended cut of Batman vs Superman only. Yeah. Because Justice League doesn't exist. And I'm not too sure what the Snyder cut's going to be.
But we still love Joss Whedon though.
Do you know what? I don't mind Justice League. I went into Justice League thinking, well, it can't be any worse than the last one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, to my mind. If they were making a standalone Justice League film and it didn't have all the, sort of the weight of everything that had tried to come before it, I think people would have been perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
I think it was just because we were promised something, and then due to personal tragedy on Zack Snyder's behalf, he couldn't realise it, and obviously then all the bits and bobs and all that controversy started. So forget about that film.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the extended cut of Batman vs Superman, we've got a Batman or a Bruce Wayne really late on in his career, and to echo the sentiments of a friend I was discussing this with yesterday, he's almost done with it, and I don't necessarily mean Batman, but just everything. He's at the point where Alfred's pissed off with him, and sort of like, even sort of Alfred, the ever devoted servant's challenging him and going, really, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and he's drinking, and I think he just plays a really complex character that's seen 20 plus maybe 30 years of horror as a life of leading this dual life, and I think that Ben Affleck absolutely knocked that out of the park.
Yeah.
And then I think in terms of look as well, he looks like you've pulled him straight out of the comics.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And then in terms of a favourite Batman, it's Keaton.
Yeah, it's got to be Keaton.
It is Keaton. And I think that I just think the really subtle sort of, almost to your points for Christian Bale, blending into the night sort of and how he's almost the secondary character in his own stories.
Yeah.
Which works. I think that just lends itself really well. And so I would have to say that the one I think combined did the best job is again Keaton.
Yeah.
I think his Bruce Wayne is really good and not a million miles off what Affleck did.
Yeah.
I really like how he is in Batman 89. And then I figure in Batman Returns, he's a little bit less Bruce Wayne and a little bit more Batman when he's Bruce Wayne. Like the boardroom scene in Batman Returns, and he's like, well, I don't agree with your power plant because you're quite clearly doing this. And then he starts going on about how I can't prove it yet, but the Penguin's a crime boss and all that sort of stuff. Bruce Wayne wouldn't know or care.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So that kind of sort of feels like that's why I can't give him the best Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of what the scene in Batman Forever felt like. When Val Kilmer's grilling Jim Carrey about the TV idea and about the schematics and it just won't work, and it's like you don't really like. I understand the business interest point of view of it, but like. You don't give a shit, do you? You know what I mean? You just don't.
Exactly. And that's why I think that Affleck did it so well, because he's sort of like, the let them eat cake scene, as they call it in Batman vs Superman, where he meets Clark Kent and he's chatting away. And yes, they're having a politically charged, for the context of the film conversation, they're talking about the logistics of whether characters like Batman and Superman themselves are relevant, and yes, they're both getting subtle digs in, but that's fan service more than it's
I think so.
more than it's what the characters would actually sort of say. But then like Bruce, he's doing his usual trick of but in fact, I don't know if he is drinking or whether he's doing his trick of making it look like he's getting plastered. But somebody walks past, a young lady walks past in a very revealing dress, and he sort of looks at her and goes, "Ooh, yeah, bad habit. Don't write that." And he does all that sort of thing, and he turns up and gets his picture taken for the press, and he is doing the Bruce Wayne bit sort of thing. And I think that's probably my argument. Do we have any other questions this week?
Yeah, we've got a few this week. We've got Ruben's big question, which is that's going to be our next segment, because Ruben's agreed that he's going to ask us a question for every episode. So we're going to do the Ruben's big question section right at the end. What else have we got? So we've got some weird ones. We do have some silly ones. We've got a few from Will on Facebook. Hi, Will.
Mate.
If vampires have no reflection, how do they shave?
That's a very good question, and I have no logic for which to back it up. Do they? Because they know where the beard is. Do they put shaving foam on the beard? The shaving foam will appear in the mirror, so they have an idea of where to go, and then wet the razor and shave the foam away.
It depends what sort of vampire films you're dealing with. Because if it's sort of the ones where the vampire and everything connected to the vampire has no reflection at all, unless it's another person, like so clothes don't show up in the mirror either. But then are the clothes just like an illusion? Are they just?
I was told I was wearing robes of the finest silk.
Is it some sort of like psychic connection? My thing with it is, after you die, sorry, I got really morbid. After you die, your hair still grows for a little while, but not for like,
Yeah, I suppose because vampires are the undead, aren't they?
Well, your hair's made up mostly of dead blood vessels, and they don't have heartbeats, so
no.
So I don't think, but I think you'd have to worry about it for a little while. I like the thing in the Big Bang, because the answer to this in the Big Bang Theory about like no, we've been over this, to get into pairs and shave each other, but no, I don't think that's...
Well, that was going to be my other answer. I'd forgotten that on the Big Bang Theory, but usually in most vampire stories there's a deluded young love interest that wants to be involved, so you surely be like, right, love, I'm already dead, here's a razor, you can't do any damage, sort me out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, that's probably the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So they could arguably hypnotise somebody into doing it for them.
Yes. Look at the eyes, not around the eyes. You will shave my beard. You will do a fantastic job.
Sorry, I just remembered that bit from Spectre.
Which bit from
Spectre? Was
Spectre?
it Spectre or Skyfall? I can't remember. With Moneypenny. This is the tricky part.
Oh, Skyfall.
It is in Skyfall.
Yeah.
Not Spectre. I haven't seen either of them for quite a while. So I hope that answers your question, Will. I think the vampire would hypnotise somebody into doing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or just not grow a beard at all. Will also asks, I've got a few from him. He went off on a bit of a tangent. So I will again. Are Medusa's leg hairs snakes? I don't know a huge amount about Greek mythology, to tell you the truth. Not enough to know whether Medusa's leg hairs are snakes.
And I suppose really you can't get close enough to look because you turn to stone.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So, yeah. I tell you what, Medusa, if you're listening, ring in.
We'll have you as a guest on the show.
Absolutely. Well, if it's meant to be a hair on a head,
yeah,
and it's not meant to be anything else, some sort of, she's not like a centaur or a minotaur or anything like, she's not like half human, half snake or whatever, and that's meant to be her hair, then logic would dictate that any other bodily hair would grow as little snakes.
As little snakes, yeah.
Yeah. So I think logic dictates that one, buddy.
Yeah, okay, so yes. They are indeed. And another one from Will. What happens if you hire two private investigators to follow each other?
They both realise very quickly if they're good private investigators.
Yeah.
They take your money, they mug you off for a week.
That's probably... Yeah, I reckon that would happen. Yeah, if they're decent private investigators, they'd figure it out.
Absolutely.
Almost immediately, I think.
If
you follow me, you'll follow me. Who hired you? This person. Same one that hired me. Right, sound. Let's
hopefully they would... This is what I'd do if I was... if I was a private investigator and somebody hired me to waste my time like that, I would again want to make contact with the other person once I realised what was going on, and come up with such... Well, no, not so much rinse them for every penny, but just come up with such a hilariously elaborate story as to what the other person was doing, and just have a load of fun with it.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, just go, don't waste my time.
So that's it from Will. Joe says, why doesn't Nicolas Cage make good films? Which I think is unfair.
I think it is unfair. Again, coming from the Nick Cage fan.
Yeah. But not a Nick Cage apologist.
But not a Nick Cage apologist. It's too early, guys. I've not put my teeth in yet.
Yeah. Okay, so Gone in 60 Seconds. Con Air.
The Rock.
What else we got?
So those are like his good action films. National Treasure's pretty good.
National Treasure, I really enjoyed that.
Second one,
taking the mick a little bit.
But I watched one recently, one of his direct-to-video jobs called Dying of the Light, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He's supposedly fantastic in, is it Colour Out of Space?
Oh yeah.
The sort of inspired by Lovecraft, sort of Cthulhu, all that sort of good stuff. I think Nicolas Cage is one of those guys that will just appear in anything.
Yeah. I think he's like the thing I've always said about Cage is like when his agent phones him up, he just says yes before he even knows, like before he's got a description of what's actually happening.
And yeah, I don't know. I think he has made good films.
Yeah. I mean, he does have an Oscar.
He lives in Las Vegas. He was brilliant in.
And he is from sort of a powerhouse family.
Yeah, 'cause he's a Coppola, isn't he?
He's a Coppola, yeah.
I don't know. I think Nick Cage does some of the. He's almost a cross between Michael Caine and Steven Seagal.
That's like the most perfect description of Nicolas Cage.
But he is in the sense of Michael Caine is a really humble bloke and will pretty much agree to work on anything.
Yeah.
Because his view was, well, I don't know when the next Italian job or the next Get Carter or Zulu or whatever, if the Ipcress file is great, it's going to come out.
Yeah.
And so he'd take these little projects, and that's how he ends up in things like he couldn't accept his Oscar for, was it Educating Rita or Hannah and her Sisters? I can't remember which way round it was, but he couldn't accept it because he was filming Jaws for The Revenge.
Oh yeah.
And he had to send somebody. I think Roger Moore went and accepted it for him or something like that. And but that testament to him, like if somebody offers me some work and it's a decent bit of work, he'll take. And I think Cage is the same.
Yeah.
I think he just enjoys working. I think he enjoys the process and the art of making movies, and just has fun. It's a great opportunity to work with different actors. You're the named star and you're the reason why people are going to watch it, but actually the unnamed second character that you're working with, that might be their big break. And there's a lot of that, and a lot of the direct-to-video ones that he does where he's hamming it up and phoning it in, the stories are reasonable, and I think with maybe more experienced and capable filmmakers, they could do that. But I think he just likes to work. So I think
the ones that'll soon be in your $3.99 bin at your local car wash.
Absolutely. But I think so like the Steven Seagal side of things. I think he does just make cheesy action films that perhaps he's a hair too old for now.
Except Under Siege. Under Siege was brilliant.
Well, Under Siege with Steven Seagal was.
That's what I meant.
No. But what I mean for Steven Seagal, it was at the height of his career, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like mid-90s. Was it early 90s? And he's got like Nico Above the Law and Fire Down Below and
Hard to Kill and all that sort of stuff.
Hard to Kill. There's a series of as in a release order of films that Seagal did in the late 80s, early 90s, which are more than acceptable action films.
Yeah.
But there we go. So
we've got one more question. I'm going to do a jingle. Jingle. So we've got Ruben's big question, which is drum roll. If you had to recast the leading role for your favourite movie, who would you choose and why?
Why are you putting so much emphasis on the H?
Cool Whip again. Often deja vu. Did we do this before?
Only a little bit, and that's the weird thing right there. Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So if you had to, sorry, that was an interesting going off on a tangent.
It was. So
if you had to recast your favourite,
my favourite film of all time, I'm not going to use, because even though last week wasn't a James Bond episode, we talked about James Bond quite extensively as an answer to one of the questions. And because I want to save my second favourite film, because it's where we derive our title from for a later episode, I'm going to go with favourite number 3.
Yeah, I'm probably going to do the same actually. I'll do mine, but go on.
With my third favourite film of all time is Harrison Ford in The Fugitive, and movie trailer voice there for you. But yeah, so Fugitive is obviously Richard Kimball. He's accused of killing his wife. The US Marshals, led by Gerard, are out to catch him. It's a game of cat and mouse whilst Harrison Ford hunts for the one-armed man. So, if I'm recasting the lead role, if I want everything else to be the same, and I just think, who else is a contemporary of the early 90s that could have done it really well and it still have had the same sort of level of success?
Yeah.
To me, the obvious answer is Liam Neeson.
Okay.
I figure if you put Liam Neeson into that role,
Yeah.
I think he would. I think you could take Harrison Ford out of it, put Liam Neeson in,
And he would have
and
the same way.
and it'd all unfold the same way. I think it would go down as a great action film of the early 90s.
Okay. Just to expand on that, if you had to recast Tommy Lee Jones as well.
If I had to recast Tommy Lee Jones, I actually had not thought of that. I hadn't actually thought of that. What about the guy who played Two-Face in Batman Forever? He was quite good.
Oh yeah, him out of Men in Black as well. Do you remember him?
Guy who played Stranix in Under Siege. He was pretty good too. Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Okay. I would. Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah. Yes, sir, I know that the kid's dead. Well, if you want to blame somebody, blame me. I shot him. I don't know, that's Dirty Harry chasing a bad guy. Or somebody he perceives to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
That would work, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So that just reminded me of that line from Batman that I almost forgot, the one from Batman Returns. You know, when he's threatening to kill his kid. He says, "Oh, if you had an ounce of humanity left, you'd take me instead." Well, I don't, so no.
Come on, isn't it? Do you want to see him merged into the sewers? I love the whole. Can't do a Christopher Walken impression to save my life, but I love the whole sort of like, you know, he does the wacky and the zany and sort of goes off on words that shouldn't have any sort of like, you know, rising pitch or anything like that. Wow, you know, he's got all that sort of thing.
Two mice fell in a bucket of cream.
Yeah, but then he does the whole thing where he sort of like, and he gets really low and he talks, you know, down here, and he's got that sort of thing going. But yeah, so if I was going to make the exact same film and just had to replace the lead, I think Liam Neeson would do it. If I had more time to think about it and think about early 90s actors, then maybe, I don't know, Denzel Washington.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
Denzel Washington might have done a really good Richard Kimball, but I think also Denzel could have done a really good Gerard.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, I'm just trying to sort of think who else we could put in. Michael Keaton would probably do a really good Gerard.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think he'd do so good as Kimball. I don't think he'd be likeable as Kimball.
No.
But I think he could do a really good Gerard. Jeff Daniels could probably do Gerard.
Yeah.
He doesn't get as much serious acting credit as he deserves.
Yeah. I was thinking if Gerard had been William Fickner's character from Prison Break. You know, like because it's kind of the same, but like slightly, maybe a little bit cleverer, like a little bit more sort of, this more sort of sneaky detective stuff going on. He
wants to be equal parts comedic but serious at the same time. That's what Tommy Lee Jones brings to that so well.
Yeah. And you'd have to have like the wacky sidekick. There's John Pantoliano.
I'm going to say you keep Joey Pants there, Don't change any of the supporting cast.
Yeah.
But that's why I think Neeson would work so well, because Harrison Ford did really quite well at playing the tormented but driven sort of character.
Yeah.
And I know Taken is nowhere near as good a film as The Fugitive.
But Neeson does do that well.
But he does do that whole bit very well. Yeah. And I think younger Liam Neeson, not that he doesn't try hard now, but he does do a lot of like direct-to-video sort of cut and paste the plot of Taken into a new scenario style films, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of that.
But younger, mid-90s Liam Neeson sort of, where he's really driven, fresh off the back of like Schindler's List. And, you know, I think he done Michael Collins at that point as well, but like really sort of like on the ball Liam Neeson, I think, could have absolutely knocked that out of the park. If I was going to make it a comedy, I'd have Jim Carrey. Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
So that was my thought, is if I'm recasting it completely, am I changing the whole tone of the film? And I'd probably have Jim Carrey.
Okay.
I think you could get him into some really wacky scenarios on the on the run from the cops and stuff like that. But you'd have to lean into the whole crazy, like
it would have to be a comedy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the set piece with the the St. Patrick's Day parade, which in the actual film is really tense.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, make it for complete laughs. And,
yeah.
Change the one-armed man to something that's a little funnier, sort of thing. I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of something off the top of the head. I'm not a comedy writer, but something that's more visually funny and
I'm thinking
even less plausible that they could have killed.
I'm thinking that the character that Johnny English describes in that scene where he's got into the fake fight with the guy and his hair was orange and he had a scar on his cheek in the shape of a banana and an eye patch and all this.
An eye patch English?
It's like, is this your man?
Yeah.
That's exactly like him.
But you could even have somebody like Steve Coogan playing like the Gerard character or something like that.
I'm trying to think of because I'd have to do. I'm not going to do the Blues Brothers because the Blues Brothers is
they are
perfect.
Blues Brothers, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like there just isn't any recasting. It just doesn't. It wouldn't happen. It would have to be Fight Club, which I would say is like Fight Club and Blues Brothers are like contenders for my top spot. But yeah, I think because if I had to recast Fight Club, I'd have to recast all of it. I think, I don't think I'd recast Helena Bonham Carter because she is perfect in that
so
film.
Before you go any further, guys, if you've not seen Fight Club, we're going to go with spoilers here.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to, but slight warning, I might.
I don't think there's a way you could do this without going spoilers. Anyway, go on, I'll see.
I would recast Edward Norton.
Okay.
I think Liam Neeson will be in the running, to be honest. Now that I'm thinking about Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson can do everything. I'm just trying to think who else are you...
I would have liked to have seen Leo DiCaprio if I got it.
If it was made a bit later...
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if it was... Because it was 1999, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
Say like 2006.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, because that's going to be Leo around The Departed, isn't it?
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
I think I would recast... I think I would recast that as Liam Neeson. As Liam Neeson is Leo DiCaprio. I think Brad Pitt's character. I would want to see somebody really someone that can do scary quite well. Because I think once once the plot unfolds, as much as I love Brad Pitt, I think Brad Pitt's amazing in that film.
I'm trying to think now who'd be...
Let's revisit the list of actors that people think are
scary.
Are scary. Johnny Depp. Do you know what? I would recast I would put Johnny Depp in that.
I can't see that myself.
No?
There you go.
Maybe Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin would do a brilliant Edward Norton.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'd be really good as the narrator.
Yeah. And then in terms of if you had to recast Burton...
Yeah. I think I would...
would late 90s Mel Gibson?
No, he's not. He's got to be...
He's the wrong type of scary, isn't he?
He's got to be more charismatic than that.
Yeah.
More eccentric, but still more sort of like... More heartthrob at the same time, and tough guy, and like... That's the tricky thing about Tyler Durden, because...
Could Bruce Willis do it?
No, I don't think so. Because Tyler Durden is, spoiler alert, he's all the things that Edward Norton's character isn't. Right? Yeah. So he's like an amalgamated personality
of everything
he wants to be. So like he's everything that most blokes want to be. You know, he's a smooth talker. He's tough. He's interesting.
Yeah, gets the girl.
He's intelligent. Yeah, like... So I don't
commands respect, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't think Mel Gibson could pull that off.
No. I'm just trying to think of people that were big back in the day.
I think Johnny Depp could pull that off, to be honest. I reckon at this stage in his career, looking the way that he does.
Possibly. What about like Robert Downey Jr.?
Nah, he's not. It's just
he
missing.
couldn't do the scary, could
something. Yeah, no,
No, he couldn't do the scary.
It's sort of like because most actors match up most of what it is, and just are missing one element. You know, like, and that's the thing about Brad Pitt. He does have all of it. I would like to see Joaquin Phoenix play Edward Norton. In all conscience, I don't think I can recast Brad Pitt.
No, actually, I think that could be a shout.
Perfect, but
I mean, you could do.
If I had to, I would pitch on that.
If you had to, you could do the Robert Downey Jr. bit. But then when you need the scary ones, it's just like, oh yeah, there's a third personality, and just bring Gary Busey.
Oh man.
My name is Mr. Joshua, if it matters to you so much.
This reminds me of that bit in Under Siege when he spits in the soup.
Yeah.
And Steven Seagal hits him. Hey, you can't do that, that's striking an officer. And he goes, that's not striking an officer. That's striking an officer. And he proper whacked him.
I love that.
Yeah, I might have to watch that tonight. It's so good. Yeah, so I hope that's adequately answered all of your questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you for asking them, and feel free to ask any more. We're going to be starting threads on Facebook and on Twitter and stuff.
Absolutely, we are. So this is the last episode of 2020, is episode 2.
Yep.
This will be coming out week commencing 28th of December.
Yep.
And we are very much looking forward to, after a Christmas break, getting back to you with a new episode in the new year. So let's think about washing away those January blues. What do you want to ask us? What do you want to be our subject matter? We've not chosen our film for next time, so that'll be a surprise for nearer the time for you all.
Yep.
Is
Give
there
me a shout on
anything?
Twitter at Twig Says and
at JT_@the_movies.
Yep.
And I'm on YouTube at JT at the movies.
Yep.
You can listen to this on Spotify and on Anchor FM as well.
Yep.
Have we put it anywhere else?
It's going to be up on Apple Podcasts, I think. Anchor sort of shares it all over the place, so I'll grab a few links up and.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered everything, haven't we, Phil?
Yeah, I think so.
We've answered everybody's questions. We've talked about Batman Returns. Batman Returns for the museum.
Yeah, that one's going in the museum.
Would you say that we've chosen wisely?
I would say
You have chosen wisely.
So folks, thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Lost in His Own Museum. We hope that you have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year, and take very good care of yourselves and your loved ones. We will speak to you all in the new year.
Happy Christmas, Happy New Year and all that as well from me, and remain indoors and have a pleasant apocalypse. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.